Located across the feathers and scales is the Living Coast. Hello and welcome back to a finally long-awaited new episode of Zoo Tours at the southwest corner of the Brookfield Zoo, featuring their aquarium. As soon as you enter, you can immediately feel and smell the oceanic atmosphere. The first thing you see are a few smaller tanks home to the reef's brightest colors, featuring several live coral and children's favorites such as anemones and their very famous residents. Around the bend is the first slice of the 4 major water-based ecosystems. What was once a tank for saltwater salmon is now a small concept of the Great Lakes. There are over 150 species in the Great Lakes, 8 of them in here, such as the sunfish, bass, and the star of the show, an easily entertained channel catfish who loves to follow you around. In between that and the next main area are a couple of smaller homes for the rainbow darter, and then over to the left and in the corner, the marbled salamander, who unfortunately I did not see. Through the second bend is the open ocean tank, 36,000 gallons, which approximates the more shallow part of the waters that are more than a mile offshore. There is no special design as an attempt to create the illusion that it goes on forever. Bonnethead sharks and sea turtles once coexisted in here, but now circling the currents and sometimes taking you by surprise are cow-nosed rays, who since 1997 were always part of this original lineup. Halfway through, down the hall is a circular tank for the thin membraned moon jellies that float and become magically lit in front of the empty black. But just out of view is the underwater lush forest, the lifelike reproduction of the nearshore waters, the kelp forest. The largest, most lively, and most specially designed tank in the building. 50,000 gallons, 7 species, including the leopard shark and occasionally geriatric penguins that mix in with them. 1 giant glass panel in the middle and bubble windows on either side. The rockwork makes you get as close to the animals as much as possible, so it's always a pleasure when you're inches away from a moray eel. I've seen this usually hidden creature several times, but never have I ever actually seen one of them swim out in the open this much. The kelp forest is the third of the 4 aforementioned environments. So before the last stop are more colorful tanks displaying several wrasses, the feared venomous lionfish, and a separate area in the corner for bat stars and pot-bellied seahorses. Past the closed doors, through the ribbons of kelp and the ceiling of scales, is when the sounds of the environment start to become more natural, most notably from the timed roars of this waterfall that crashes from the ceiling into the pool and appears as if it's spilling from above where you stand, which would most definitely spill out if not for the top section, but you can still feel it spray from a distance. Now at the very end of the hall, giving this bittersweet teasing view, is just one more tank, the coral reef known as the Tidal pool, which focuses on how corals help the ecosystem and the residents that choose to cope with them in what the zoo calls the underwater castle. And now, for the grand finale. One of the most spectacular and exciting exhibits in the entire park. Air streams coming off the rocks, outcroppings and caverns surrounding you in every direction, sounds of crashing waves and horns of boats echoing the walls. And to literally top it off, a 44-foot-high geodesic dome allowing natural light to shine onto this 3,000 square foot space. Other than the exhibit being a spectacle by itself, occasionally swimming in this 20,000 gallon pool and waddling along the shore is the streamlined, tuxedoed Humboldt penguin, the face of the Living Coast. However, their habitat does continue as it climbs the walls, goes over the barriers, and acts as a haven for the free-flying Inca terns and gray gulls that sometimes will dive bomb from the roosts into their pool for their food. Though ironically, if you ask me, it doesn't have an underwater viewing, but that still doesn't mean you can't get close to the flightless birds and at least have some sort of connection. This rocky shore does not end there. Across from the penguins and within the caverns are several terrariums for the Solomon Islands leaf frog, didn't see, the rainbow boa, couldn't film it, a tarantula, unspecified species, and the more newer resident, the Texas blind salamanders. And yes, for those who are speculating, the cavern did have an exhibit for vampire bats. Initially, this entire attraction, from start to finish, was designed to build on this, the environment of Peru and Chile. The idea for such a finale was to have you experience going down into the ocean depths and then back up to break through the surface and meet the land once again. And that was the living coast at the Brookfield Zoo. So says the walls of the building. For all is like an ocean. All is flowing and blending. A touch in one place sets up a movement at the other end of the world. Thank you for watching.